First of all, I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to convey some thoughts and ideas. I'm honored to be here, and I want to speak about how disabilities should be celebrated for their differences, because those differences are the extreme versions of the human condition, and how this can impact all of our lives. The human condition is not perfect, and in our efforts to optimize almost everything, we more and more create a world for the average person. But what is average is always changing, and therefore there can never really be an average. And so the world needs to constantly change to accommodate this perceived average. But it may not have to. If we look to the right sources to help us to understand ourselves and how we change, then we can build a world that accommodates how we change in advance of those changes occurring. People with disabilities have superpowers. People with disabilities are people of determination, as I recently observed in the UAE, have a unique insight into problems in a frequency that is multiples of what the average person will experience every day of their lives. This means that we are constantly engaged in solving hard problems and constantly planning ahead for eventualities in a world which is in many cases uncertain. And this process is not something that is engaged in as much totality by the average person. This is, of course, with the exception of a few circumstances. But for people with disabilities, it is a constant and unrelenting process that cannot be put to one side, or you will suffer the consequences. So it's probably fair to say that people with disabilities are some of the best forward planners and problem solvers in our society. This is our superpower. The problem is that because disability is the focus, the individual's strengths are perhaps not noticed because of their condition. We think that we should figure out how to help people with disabilities instead of thinking how can they help us. And there are a few reasons for this, in my opinion. Few people who are able-bodied will believe that a disabled person will have insight in how to help them. And our egos often say to us that if I'm able-bodied, maybe I'm the one that has to help the disabled person. And people with disabilities who do things or manage to live their lives are referred to as brave and inspiring, when in reality all we're really doing is problem solving and planning in order to live our lives and have experiences that should be there for everyone. In some circumstances, again, though, it is very much about survival and getting through the next day. Imagine bringing to bear this superpower on the toughest problems we face every day. Technology is increasingly enabling us to do more with less abilities, and it's leveling the playing field to the intellectual capabilities of the individual. In China, the first ever remote surgery performed happened in January of this year, and it was carried out on an animal. In March of this year in China, again, brain surgery was successfully performed and carried out on a human. And the distance between the surgeon and the patient was 3,000 kilometers. And both surgeries were carried out in real time over 5G networks with robots operated by the surgeons. Imagine people who are inherent problem solvers and forward planners being able to work in real time on complex tasks like this remotely. I believe that there's huge potential in this. But why else is this superpower important? Well, if I ask the question, what are the chances of anyone ending up disabled? The answer will not be music to your ears. Here's some information to give you an idea. The biggest minority group in the world is the disabled. The number of people on the planet who are considered disabled is over 1 billion. And the largest part of that group are the elderly. This year, the percentage of people on the planet over the age of 65 is 9%, and that's set to rise in 2100 to 22.8%. And I want you to think about that. So by virtue of this information, it is the case that if you're lucky enough to live long enough, you have a 100% chance of being disabled. Everyone in this room who is not disabled will be disabled. It's also the case that there are more acquired disabilities every day due to our frenetic lifestyles, and people are born every day with disabilities. With the current megatrends of how our age demographics are changing, you can see that our disabled population on this planet is huge, will be bigger, and is ever increasing, and this is happening now. But it's not all bad news, because we have the capabilities today to make sure that the world does not close in on us tomorrow. And we have the capabilities today to make sure that the world we live in and how we we form that world prolongs the independence of everyone for the majority of their lives, for every generation to come. And when we tap into this resource, we will make changes that, when institutionalized, will create a world that is considered towards all regardless of ability for our future selves. And when that happens, we'll never notice, because that's how it should have always been. It's also the reason why I believe that robots and cobots are going to be a big part of our future. We may not like the idea today, but we will need them in the future as our human frailties change our capabilities. I think they will perhaps take a different form to what we see today. And in my opinion, I think we should see robots that are not designed to negotiate obstacles that we as humans have built, but ones that are designed to help us as we change in our bodies. The effort instead should be put towards making the environments and those obstacles a non-runner, like that they're not there at all. So we as humans can operate, once we operate at suboptimal levels, we're still capable and independent for larger parts of our lives. The robots should address the offset in our frailties and prolong our independence, allowing us to capitalize on what really matters in life, which is time with family, health, and happiness. And now I want to tell you a story about how my own knowledge and experience as a disabled person led to changes in my own local town that will benefit everyone. About 3 years ago, I felt ill. I went to the doctor, who did a battery of tests on me and told me I was type 2 diabetic. And this came as a shock to me. I thought I was working too hard and it was just tiredness and fatigue, but I wasn't looking after myself and I was paying the price. She told me I needed to take medication to manage the condition, but I was like, is there any other way I can solve this problem? And I queried if it was possible to reverse it. And she told me about a pretty extreme diet which had reversed the condition in people, bringing their blood sugars back to normal. I had to lose weight, change my diet, and get more exercise. As well as going on this extreme diet, I began wheeling my chair around town to get exercise and lose that weight. But when I got home from wheeling my chair, I would be in chronic pain, even more than usual. And this was due to the vibration and impacts I was enduring on the footpaths. I thought, is there a way to measure this? And then we can use this information to prevent other people from suffering with the same things that I suffered from. So I began to map where I went and monitor the vibrations and impacts. This revealed incredible information about the conditions of our footpaths and how inaccessible they were. And by creating heat maps of where I went, I could show data of severity of impact and then take photos of those problems. Two friends, Darren Maliff, Darren Conroy, and my partner Natalia and I started to see an opportunity for a business from this. We began gathering data to provide to our local authorities in charge of footpath maintenance, and to our surprise and horror, we found that many issues were actually there far longer than when we first recorded that data. And using Google Earth, we in fact found access issues that had existed for up to and at least 10 years. Many of these issues were actually public liability problems too, making them unsafe to the general public and a cost to all taxpayers through public liability claims. We gave that first set of data to our local council free of charge so they could fix footpaths and make them safe and accessible for everyone, and reduce the chance of public liability claims being made against them. This is the first result we achieved. I know it doesn't look like much, but we fixed a problem that existed for 8 years. And I have a couple of more examples I'm going to show you too. So this is outside a shopping center near where we live. This footpath was a mess. People were getting rattled around and things like that, and they fixed this as well as a result of our data. But these changes, they stop people in wheelchairs suffering cumulative impacts over the distance, which would be similar to the forces impacted on the body if you were to go around with a professional boxer. It stops babies and small children being rattled around in their prams and strollers while they're in their formative months and years. It decreases the chances of the elderly having a trip or fall, which could lead to an injury that they never recover from. This and other such problems can be solved by engaging the disabled in a meaningful way, and it will only benefit all of us, especially our future selves. We use the disability to create a positive impact that will affect everyone, regardless of ability, for generations to come. So I would encourage governments, companies, and employers to understand that you have a unique opportunity in engaging people with disabilities in work, problem solving, and in resolving societal issues. Not just because it's a mandatory obligation or is considered best practice or paints you in a good light as a compassionate entity for engaging people with disabilities, but because they're probably the best problem solvers and planners you could have in your organizations, with unique insights that you will never have until it's way too late, with potential to deliver ideas that will help everyone in your organizations, and even help you when your frailties as a human do begin to inflict the inevitable upon you. Do not look at disability as something that needs to be helped. Look at it as your future selves. Tap into this unique knowledge base to make a truly powerful impact on humanity, because we will all need these potential solutions in the future. Thank you.